Put attention on suffering, which is constant and everywhere, and it is all you will see. Joy will come and laughter, but you will find it brief and possibly a distraction. Put your attention on joy, being connected and feeling whole, and you will find it everywhere. Your heart will still break. You will know grief, but you will find it a reasonable cost for the random abundance of miracles and the soft, wild rhythms of love. Return to love as many times as you can.
Does anyone know what today is, a special day?
Mother's Day.
Yep, Mother's Day. Well, I'm going to read a story about a very different kind of mother. The name of my book is Mother Bruce. And if you've heard it, don't spoil it, before. Bruce was a bear who lived by himself. He was a grump. He did not like sunny days. He did not like the rain, and he did not like cute little animals. Bruce only liked one thing, eggs. He collected them from all over the forest. But Bruce didn't eat eggs raw like other bears. Instead, he cooked them into fancy recipes that he found on the internet, as bears often do. Now, one day, Bruce came across a recipe for boiled goose eggs drizzled with honey salmon sauce. Sounds yummy. So he went out to get the ingredients. First, he caught a few salmon. Then he collected honey from a local beehive. He liked to support local businesses. And last, he went to Mrs. Goose's nest to pay her a visit. Now, he's got her by the neck, and he's got her eggs. And he says to her, Are these eggs free-range organic? At home, Bruce prepared the eggs for hard boiling. But the fire in his stove fizzled. So he went out to get more wood. Now, when Bruce came back, he was met with an unwelcome surprise, because there in the stove, on the stove, in the pot, are 4 absolutely adorable goslings. And they said to him, can you read it? Want to say it with me? Mama! Bruce became the victim of mistaken identity. Think he wanted to be Mama? No. Yep. Bruce wanted hard-boiled eggs, not goslings. He supposed he could settle for buttered goslings on toast. But for some reason, he lost his appetite. I think it's because they're so cute. So Bruce scooped up the little geese and brought them back to his nest. I wonder if Mrs. Goose has a return policy. But there on the nest was a note. The note said, "Be back in April." Mrs. Goose had flown south a little bit early. So Bruce left the goslings there anyway and went back home. Are the goslings going to stay there? Don't spoil it. Apparently I can't turn the page, so you may have to spoil it. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. But he was followed, and they all follow him going, "Mama, Mama." Now, Bruce was very stern, and he said things like, "Go away," and "I am not your mother," and also, "I liked you better when you were eggs." Bruce could take it no longer, and he became extra grumpy with them. So I need everyone's help, and I mean everyone. So when I count to 3, I want a great big roar. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Think that did it? Well, it didn't work. Goslings always follow their mother, even if she is a he, and he is a bear. And there they are following him. So they followed him everywhere. They chased him, they went up the tree with him, and they even learned to walk a little bit like him. See, they're kind of walking like it. He walks like kind of like that, and they're walking like that too. Bruce was stuck with them. They're climbing on his belly. He tried to make the best of it, so he bought a little wading pool, and I guess he can't swim because he's wearing a little life preserver. So he's kind of a good mother. Okay, but it was really hard work. When they painted, it was very messy, and he made himself a little carrier for them, and they didn't always like what they had to eat because they're saying, yeah, yeah. And then they all sleep with him on the log. They are really very attached to him. So as the seasons passed, Bruce watched the pesky goslings grow older. They went from annoying baby geese to stubborn teenage geese to boring adult geese. Then one fall afternoon, he saw other goose families flying south. Finally, he thought, I can get rid of those geese, and he could finally take a long winter nap. Bruce explained migration, but they didn't listen. They went out and bought winter clothes instead. Bruce needed the geese to leave, so he got creative, made a giant slingshot, tried to shoot them away. Kind of made the little airplanes. I think they work with like a sparkler or something, but they wouldn't leave. Sigh, said Bruce. So Bruce decided to pack some bags and take his geese into town. And they boarded a bus. Where do you think they're going? Where? Maybe. Let's see. Yep. And they migrated to Miami. Now, every winter, Bruce and his geese head south together. They laze about at the beach in tacky shirts, sipping ice cream, drinking lemonade, while Bruce dreams of new recipes that don't hatch. And then, while he's sitting on the beach, one of the geese is approached by a newly hatched little baby turtle, and he says, ready? Mama. So we're going to go downstairs after they sing us. We're all going to join together in the library downstairs, and we're going to have a nice snack, and then we're going to go outside and play field games. So I will see you downstairs.
Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Animals by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. The baby Weddell seal has not grown into her flippers. She is awkward. She does not want to swim. She does not know she can breathe underwater. No one has told her about the great oxygenating capacity of her blood. She doesn't know that the milk her mother gives her is some of the fat, richest milk in the world. Southernmost mammal on the planet, she doesn't know the depths to which she is capable, but her mother does. The mother Weddell seal will push her baby into the water against her will. She will force her child's head into the water while the baby coughs and sputters and struggles and squirms. The baby is new here. She does not know that she can breathe underwater until she does. And then everything changes. By the time weaning is over, she will be able to dive 2,500 feet below the water. Stay there for an hour if she wants to. Find a tiny hole she made for air after swimming 12 kilometers away. Move gracefully between frozen and liquid worlds. Am I the only one here in the lesson? A coughing, sputtering thrash, a struggle to stay who I thought I was, ignorant to what evolution has already written inside me? I feel out of my depth. But really, how would I know? The tough love of the Weddell seal mother teaches a lesson about the difference between what is cute and what is necessary, what has been and what could be. And I am grateful for all my mothers, biological, chosen, and ancestral, mammal and otherwise, like the copperwood snake who greeted me last night. The mothers who would shock me into knowing my capacity, trust my lungs more than I thought I could, to breathe in ways I haven't breathed before, to learn my blood in ways I didn't know it.
Thank you. So, how many of us have heard of the poem Where I'm From by George Ella Lyons? Have we heard of this? You may recognize it in a minute. If you don't know this poem, it's a short and sweet poem that lists various aspects of the poet's upbringing, starting with the lines, I am from clothespins, from Clorox and carbon tetrachloride. I am from the dirt under the back porch. And it's very evocative of a particular childhood, and by the special magic of poetry, it invites us into a similar consideration of our own history. If you do know this poem, you may very well know it because you wrote your own version of it as part of a class or a workshop. It is a popular activity to get a group of learners to consider their own stories and histories and to gain empathy for the stories and histories of others. So have any of you written a Where I'm From poem in this kind of exercise? Wow, I'm really the only one who ever wrote a Where I'm From. Okay, I've written maybe they just do this in seminary? I don't know. We did this plenty. So last year, the board here at UUC York and I did a little day retreat called a startup that is often done at the beginning of ministries and professional times to talk about the stories of ourselves and of the congregation. This was facilitated by a Central East region representative from the UUA. And we were asked to do a Where I'm From poem. And I'm going to share a few lines from the end of mine here. I am from my grandmother's dreams of traveling and my father's longing for a home. I am from misdirection and uncertainty, and the old recipe box with cards written in a careful, tiny script. I am from Gilead and from Middle Earth, and I am from the stars, and from garden tomatoes I would never eat. I don't like raw tomatoes, it's a thing. And even though it's been more than a year since I wrote this particular version of the poem, I can still recall the feeling of touching each of those formative memories. The things that formed me, the very specific meanings that they contain. There are things like that exact recipe box that my family might be able to picture in the same way that I do. But magically, those things also ring true with others. When we shared our poems on that retreat day, I found it happening again and again. Hearing what shaped someone else, the things and relationships that led them to be the person they are today, completely outside of my own experience, and I said yes, again and again. I recognized it, even though I hadn't lived it. And in the I Am From activity guide published by the University of Minnesota's Global Programs and Strategy Alliance and the Center for Educational Innovation, they outline the pedagogical strategies in the exercise to facilitate communication between students of diverse backgrounds. This is particularly aimed at classrooms with international students. Near the end of the guide, they list things to consider when selecting this activity for the classroom. And first on that list is this. Keep in mind that for some students, thinking about their background may evoke painful memories that they prefer not to revisit. Students should not be forced to share their poems if they are not comfortable doing so. Be sure to give students the option to reflect on another formative time in their life, i.e. college, study abroad, an extracurricular activity, etc. Revisiting those things, people, moments, and activities that were formative for us can be deeply challenging, no matter what part of our life we think back to. People of all backgrounds with varying levels of privilege have things that formed them, well, that hurt them. And on this Mother's Day, we want to acknowledge this is a holiday that evokes very large and sometimes complicated emotions in many of us. And I want to take a moment to pause. I want to honor all the complications, all the joys, the struggles, the triumphs, the losses that brought all of us here today as the people we are, right in this moment. Whoever you are, wherever and whomever you are from, you are whole and holy. And so we return to our reading beautifully shared this morning by Sherry. By comparing herself and her own growth to the struggles of a baby Weddell seal, Alexis Pauline Gumbs seeks to create a sense of connection between all creatures, no matter how they are mothered. And I invite you into considering these struggles in a curious and generative way, because this sounds really terrible a little bit. The beginning of it sounds a little harsh out of context, but we've heard the whole thing. The mother Weddell seal will push her baby into the water against her will. She will force her child's head into the water while the baby coughs and sputters and struggles and squirms. Because the baby is new here. She does not know that she can breathe underwater until she does. And then everything changes. By the time weaning is over, she will be able to dive 2,500 feet below the water, stay there for an hour if she wants to, find a tiny hole she made for air after swimming 12 kilometers away, move gracefully between frozen and liquid worlds. But she doesn't know. The fact is that there are parts of growing up that will challenge us and make us afraid. Right? The fact is that some of us found family members and other guardians and others in our lives to be of great help to us, and some of us found some of them to be hindrances. And we're all from so many places. We're all from so many people. And there's so much we don't know. Just a few paragraphs later, Gumbs writes, "And I am grateful for all my mothers, biological, chosen and ancestral, mammal and otherwise, who would shock me into knowing my capacity, trust my lungs more than I thought I could, to breathe in ways I haven't breathed before, to learn my blood in ways I didn't know it." We are all born not knowing our capacity, not knowing of the joys and the struggles, the sputtering and squirming that we'll go through before we arrive at the squeals of triumph, the tears, both happy and sad, that form us into whole beings. Alexis Pauline Gumbs writes this to consider not only her growth as a child, but her growth as an adult. In an ideal world, we never stop learning, never stop growing, and even through our struggles, we find people again and again to push us and to comfort us in the face of so much learning and growth. Growth hurts. We know this. In our bones, we do. And when we meet someone and hear their story and know that they are facing similar struggles that we may have faced before, we can empathize. We can say yes to their struggle, to their story. And sometimes, by mutual consent and the magic of synchrony, we find new teachers, new guides. We discover new mothers, new ancestors. In seminary, we would do a ritual at the beginning of the school year for new students and another ritual at the end for all those completing their course of study. We would ask each student to picture all those who loved them into being. To be loved into being is so much more than a biological meeting of a sperm and egg, although for many of us, our parents are the first people we think of, and maybe one more than another, maybe both, maybe we have more than two parents, maybe we think of step-parents, adoptive parents, grandparents who lived in the house when we were growing up, aunties and uncles. There are so many ways to mother, to nurture, to love, and to care, and to grow. To be loved into being is to be nurtured physically, emotionally, and spiritually. To be loved into being is also to be challenged. Like the Weddell Seal mother, there are those in our lives who know what we are capable of, even when we do not, who love us and trust us into our full selves. To be loved into being is to be encouraged to pause and to heal. To be loved into being is to discover the gifts of our ancestors of blood and our ancestors of spirit, those whose lives provide models for our own living. To be loved into being brings us into deeper relationship with everyone who mothered us, who nurtured us, who healed us and challenged us. We give thanks to all those incredible beings who loved us into being. We give thanks to all those who have challenged us and comforted us, who had a dream for us bigger than we could imagine for ourselves. We give thanks to every single line we could say, every name we could sing in the tapestry that creates our loving, living, breathing, struggling, joyous selves. So may it be. Happy Mother's Day.
Please join us in extinguishing our chalice and your home chalices, if you have lit them, with these words: we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Carry in our hearts.
We have come to the end of this worship service. I've gone this long without naming that Unitarian Julia Ward Howe wrote the original Mother's Day Proclamation, 1872, I believe, calling for peace and for disarmament. And so we sit with peace in our hearts, a peace that is hard to come by at times, a peace that we know surpasses all understanding. Carry the flame of our faith in your hearts as you go into this week. So may it be.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Let's do it again. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we cry. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive.
Yes, we can, Kate, and I'll repeat it for everybody on Zoom. That was applause for the Deckers and the choir and John and everybody making music. And Haley, who's also an official Decker now. Everybody who's here making music today, thank you. Thank you, thank you. It was very special. And Ed Sheeran, dang it. Oh, man. Okay, good. I didn't know there was a cat in the video. Anyway, I was like, oh my God.